Yo, guys, welcome to YouTube today. And if you didn't know, rotation happened. It was announced. 2022 Pokemon TCG Championship Series rotation has been announced. And as far as everything is concerned, we will probably have a 2022 Worlds. So if you're going to buy IRL cards, now is the time. With me, I have two guests, Will Jenkins and Nico Alabas. Will, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Will. I don't make content. Go to Nico.
Nico, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Nico and I do make content.
Thank you for your introductions. Will and Nico are both very well-known players. They're both very good. And I didn't know who else to message, and these two are my only friends. So I asked them to jump on a call with me to talk about rotation. So rotation's been announced early, both last year and this year, due to obviously no IRL events happening. And now we're in a position where, well, it's not a shock to anyone what the rotation is, and it goes into effect September 10th, 2021, which means potentially that's the date they're looking for to start events at the very least, across maybe not the globe, but maybe in certain regions. And it's going to start with the Sword and Shield series, as nobody, was like shocked about. I think it's safe to say that both of you are also on the same page where like this is not a shock for any of us.
I was pretty excited for Cosmic Eclipse this day, not.
I mean, I don't think there's ever been a year where we had like a new generation, like Sun and Moon, Sword and Shield, whatever, and like 3 or even maybe 4 whatever sets, and they didn't just go to the next generation. So I'm pretty sure everyone knew that this is gonna happen. Like the only thing that could have happened was no rotation because we didn't have tournaments. But if we had a rotation, it was like pretty obvious that it's gonna be Sword and Shield on.
Yeah. And so the more important thing to note here is that for the 2022 season, cards with D and E regulation marks are legal for use. Now, this swsh-on image is being shown here that has the D on the bottom, and we have other cards that have had arts with other letters, obviously. I don't think an A, B, or C has been printed. We'll look through some of the cards as we go, but I don't think an A, B, or C has been printed. The yellow A is alternate art, so that doesn't really count because that goes straight into the set. But that just means right now Sword and Shield on is legal. And it also, like, a nice note here is that Fairy type is done. So support for Fairy type is done. Goodbye Fairy type. See you never. Basic Fairy energy is no longer legal, guys.
Kind of.
And then, so grouping cards, we're going to make it easier to note what's legal, what's not legal. For the 2023 season rotation, we'll remove all cards of the deregulation from the standard format as an example they're using. So Nico, I think, mentioned earlier before we started recording that some recent sets have had D and E cards in the same set, so it won't rotate at the same time. So I'll let Nico kind of elaborate on that.
I mean, I'm not 100% sure if, because it might be like a card that has 2 letters, like it could be a reprint, for example. But I remember talking to like the other Europeans recently, and like when those Japanese tournaments were happening, and we were talking about it, and like I'm pretty sure there's like some of the newer sets, like either Vivid Voltage or Battle Styles, that has multiple letters, because in Japan, of course, those cards were in the same set and they would have like rotated at the same time. But since we don't have the same exact sets as Japan, especially when it comes to like promo cards, it could be that we end up in a situation where we have a rotation where actually some cards from one set are legal while others from literally the same set aren't. But I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, one of the other things I was telling the guys about is that with the way this is going, that also means that potentially we could have a mini set come through or something like that, where the set is entirely designed for draft and not legal play. So it could be like really OP cards, really fun cards, but these cards would never see the light of play for standard. For example, like rather than our regular 4-set formula we have, maybe like the 25th anniversary set, or like these mini sets could have like a for a certain draft format, or a B for like a certain draft format, which means that there could be more fun formats besides just standard and expanded coming to our future. Probably not for competitive play, but just for for now, for like a testing like window, which we could probably see as soon as like ICs roll around, because they usually like to test this stuff at ICs for like side events. I mean, not like the actual IC. And obviously, as we knew before, cards like Switch, any reprints, whatever, can be reused. Nothing new there. And then expanded has not been touched yet. I mean, right now it seems completely fine. We'll see how expanded goes as we go. So let's switch it to the cards that we know are leaving. So a quick moment of silence for all our fallen brothers, especially tag teams. Just kidding. So we'll start with team up. Celosaur didn't have much of an impact. It's gone though. Prisms, now all prisms are gone as well, which I was hoping they'd do more with prisms, but that's like kind of, yeah, they're gone now. Pikarom, probably a card that myself and Will know very well. One of the most impactful cards is from its immediate release. Gone. Yeah. Tapu Koko Prism, Gengar Mimikyu. Incineroar GX. I was going to say for Mewtwo, but then I realized Mewtwo is also rotating. So, Jirachi Stellar Wish is probably one of the more important cards as well that's rotating. Engines will definitely have to change moving forward. The new Inteleon line from Sword and Shield seems like a very, probably going to become like the replacement for it, more or less. Or the new Amazing Rare Jirachi are both like replacements because you can kind of still get the search effect that you want. The Bronzor that has evolutionary advantage is also gone, so Bronzong gets a little bit weaker, which, I mean, isn't a huge thing, but, you know. Oh, I accidentally clicked the bottom. Alright.
I mean, for Jirachi, we have to keep in mind that it hasn't really been that impactful lately anyways, like, aside from, of course, like, the Jirachi Rapid Strike version, or, like, as a one-off or whatever in some decks. Like, definitely lost most of its power to last rotation already with his skateboard. So it's more like, yeah, just a card that was nice to have in format, but it's probably not going to be super impactful.
Mm-hmm. Pidgeotto is not as impactful either, but definitely makes control a little bit weaker. But Chinchino just kind of is better, right?
I mean, Tedetsu Thunder. He's been playing Pidgeotto in control the last couple of weeks.
We had that Detective Pikachu mini set that really didn't do anything, honestly. All these cards except for the Mime, which was a funny card to play. Nothing impactful there. In the next set over, we move to I actually forget the name of this card. It's Darkness Ablaze.
Unbroken Bonds.
Unbroken Bonds.
Darkness Ablaze. Hello.
Hello,
Mister.
But I saw Cesard. Okay, whatever.
Tornatus, you never.
Reshizard is one of the more impactful cards, obviously, we've seen. And Flare Starter Volcanion probably is like a huge blow for fire. Now, I know Victini decks haven't been playing it as much right now, and like fire decks haven't, but it's, I think, a pretty big loss.
I mean, Unbroken Bonds, probably from all of the sets that we're losing. I mean, all of them have something, obviously, but I think Unbroken Bonds is by far the most impactful because it has Welder, it has Mew, it has Mewtwo, it has Reshizard, it has Volcanion, it has Dedenne.
Yep.
So it's like, there's so many cards that are being, like, especially Dedenne, of course, which is in, like, almost every deck. So many, like, top tier cards that's probably going to be the most impactful. And also, like, people might probably not notice it as much earlier, like, looking at the cards, but losing Mew is actually so relevant because Rapid Strike has already been, like, on the uprising, and now the only counter card in the format is, like, gone. So you can just completely freely go rapid flow, do whatever you want.
This isn't just like for Rapid Strike in general, but some of the newer cards as well. I mean, I don't know if Nico and Will have looked at some of the newer leaks, but like, for example, Zeraora V says like 100 damage for Lightning Colors, and then 160 snipe if you've already attacked with Rapid Strike last turn. So you basically with like cards like that, and I think there's 2 or 3 more other cards that do like a lot of really big bench snipes. If you have less than like 150, 160 HP on your bench, you're not safe, like in this upcoming format. Like, there is no way to prevent this from happening. You just kind of just sit there and take it.
I mean, Inteleon is also pretty good, especially now that like all of the good lightning cards except Bolton rotate.
Correct.
So there's no more Pikarom to keep it in check and no more Mew.
Togekiss gets pretty good too, I think. So those are 2 cards, like, that's like, while we're talking, for bringing up cards that are like kind of slept on right now and you think are going to be good, go ahead and buy them now if you think they're cheap. I think I bought my Togekisses for $2. The VMAX is for $2 a pop. So definitely like keep your eye out on these cards because they will the prices will probably be very in flux for the next week while people are trying to figure out if they want to buy IRL cards or not. But yeah. Let's see. Luke Metal, definitely that's just an entire archetype out the window because Lucario Melmetal's gone. I mean, it's just, that can be said the same for ADP when we get there. But yeah, Luke Metal definitely just out the window, so that slower style of metal is going to be gone. Zacian's going to go back to having one style of play more than likely. Alright, that's Unbroken Bonds. And then we're moving to the next set. Not Cosmic, Unified Minds. Slowpoke Psyduck, what a tragic loss. Raichu.
No.
Raichu was a very impactful card on release. That card being gone is pretty big. Mewtwo and Mew obviously being gone is pretty big. And Jirachi...
What will ever do?
I know, I can't play that card anymore. Very sad. Jirachi Gx being gone is also... I mean, it's not as relevant, but this means Urshifu does get put back into check by the Calyrex card and any other psychic attacker. So now it's going to become either a 2-shot game or a 1-shot game with weakness. Latios is gone. Aerodactyl's gone. Tag teams in general, Weavile, blah, blah, blah. Mawile, so, I mean, ADP is going to be gone as a general, but yeah. Nagano GX, kind of an underrated card, but Venom Shot was probably one of the best decks that any Mewtwo deck ever had, in my opinion, other than the Flare Blitz GX. So a little bit sad to see that go.
I mean, the question here is, will Control even still be a deck? Because, like, with this set, Stamp is also gone, and most of our, like, Excadrill is gone. And, like, what Control cards are there even left, like, in the format after this rotation? Is there even anything that you could,
I think Chip Chip is gone too, right?
Play?
No.
Yeah, Chip Chip is gone, because Chip Chip is like, Chip Chip is gone, Doll is gone, Excadrill is gone,
Yeah.
Stamp is gone, Jesse James is also gone.
Weezing
Like,
is gone.
all of these cards are gone.
Yeah,
So
Control's
it's
gone.
like,
Orquaria GX is gone. That's not Control, but I'm just stating that as a fact. I just wanted to throw it in there. Seemed like a fun
the
time.
only Control card that's basically left in the format is like, what was I gonna say? Crushing Hammer, yeah. I mean, but that's not really a Control card. That's just...
And the card
It's just crushing
everyone except for Nico is happy to see rotate is ADP. GX obviously has created kind of a unhealthy-ish, not meta, but like the GX attack is just kind of overpowered. So with a GX attack like that, you could win pretty much any game from any game state. So
Goodbye, my sweet prince.
I like that card.
yeah. Now we'll jump into the trainers that we're losing. The trainers, this section is going to be a little bit more interesting to think about because with the trainers we're losing, yes, a lot of stuff has been reprinted, but we can kind of see what...
Has it, though?
Not every... Yeah, exactly what Nico said. Has it, though? Like, what parts of our staple core engines are we going to be losing? What parts of how we're going to build our decks are going to be losing? Because a lot of our deck building has become very, not stale, but very, like, copy and paste for, like, a lot of the core. So let's look at what we are probably losing here. Erica's Hospitality is one of the more niche supporters. That's gone. Very sad.
The hat ladies, oh no.
The hat ladies are gone.
Oh, no.
Goggles is gone, so that's actually a very important loss for metal, in my opinion. Do we not get communication in Sword and Shield? We did, right?
Nope.
We did not get
Communication is gone.
Communication is gone. Okay, that's actually very impactful because that means with all of these stage... Well, I mean, Evil Incense exists, right? But communication is just better, I think, in a lot of situations.
Not anymore.
Yeah. Not in this particular situation. In this particular situation, it's gone. Viridian Forest being gone is actually a little bit big. We are going to be entering a meta where Stadium Wars, I think, are going to be very strong. Especially losing Dangerous Drill, losing Swell, losing Marsh Shadow. So Stadium Wars are going to become, I think, more prevalent. Energy Spinners.
But what are you gonna war for? There's like no good stadiums.
The Power Plant Stadium. The new Power
Sky.
Plant.
Yeah, but that's
Path to
it.
the Sky.
Huh?
Path to the Sky.
Yeah, Path to the Sky. There's the other one, the Cemetery, as well.
Frozen City for Psychics.
Mm-hmm. It's just, there's probably going to be more and more inconvenient stadiums that are released, where you have to, like, actually play stadiums. Chip Chip is gone, like Nico mentioned earlier. E-Radar is gone, but I mean, Lightning is already gone, basically, so it doesn't matter.
I mean, GX Pokemon are gone, so Radar wouldn't really have a purpose anyway. So
Okay, fair point.
The only way they could get rid of Pikarom was by rotating it. It was too broken.
Yeah. Energy Spinner is
it wasn't really a deck, bro. It was like barely hanging on
What?
because of Crushing Hammer and Mani spam. If you still compare this Pikarom to how Pikarom was played, like let's say Worlds 2019, it's like completely different. It was not like the consistent powerhouse. It was mostly like, oh, I just try to delay your game plan because my damage output is too weak.
Is it winning tournaments?
I don't know.
Yes.
Are there tournaments?
Energy Spinner being gone means things like E-Switch and stuff have room to come into the format. Or E-Search, sorry. Fire Crystal is actually a little bit of a big loss, I think.
I mean, with all the fire decks gone, like Welder's gone
I mean,
anyways.
Centiskorch loses a lot of its momentum.
I mean, who's gonna play Centiskorch without Volcanion and without Welder?
Victini is
Some
just better.
crazy. Victini's just better, yes.
Victini is just still a good Pokemon, right? Because he just needs two attachments.
Yeah.
But you just don't have those like blowout fire decks anymore because you can't just put a million energies in play. That archetype is just completely gone.
Attach pass, attach boss.
It looks like water is taking over the archetype of like flooding energy onto the board, which I think should be how it is, honestly. Giovanni's is gone. That's not a huge deal. Green's being gone is interesting because, I mean, I think Green's is a very cool card for what it was. So kind of sad to see it go.
Your favorite card is gone.
Martial Arts Dojo. That's right. I don't know how I'll ever do all tournaments again. It's gone. Goodbye. See you never. Surge being gone also means control card, like we discussed earlier. Pokegear is another card gone. That's consistency. Well, that's in Sword and Shield, though. That's still there. Never mind. Pokegear is there.
Yeah.
Power Plant is gone.
Yeah, but we get a better reprint. So.
We get a better reprint, yeah. Welder, probably one of the most impactful supporters leaving is Welder, just because Welder, it was an archetype of its own. No matter how inconsistent or crazy decks got, Welder could always find a way to high roll and win. I can say that from confidently playing Welder for quite a majority of the formats.
I mean, Welder's probably even not just like one of it's probably the most impactful supporter because, I mean, every deck plays boss, research, money, and those all stay, right? And then the next step are either Welder decks or control decks. So,
and I guess like the splash of Greens decks, but Greens has not been as popular.
I mean, Greens. Who plays Greens?
Yeah.
People that are bored of the current format but don't want to win. Those people play Greens.
Yes. We have Cherish Ball, which is, with GX Pokemon leaving, as Nico said, it doesn't actually matter because it doesn't do anything. But Hearth gone, that's actually huge for fire decks, potentially like for Victini and stuff like that. That means you have to probably actually play Energy Search. So we can see Energy Search actually taking places in the decks.
Yo, Energy Surge.
Karate Belt being gone for fighting decks is a little bit important because now your comeback potential / like play from behind potential is a little bit more different. It is actually a very important card to be gone. And Reset Stamp, I guess, is like top 3, maybe top 5 impact, like rotating cards.
For sure.
Like now you can't Reset Stamp your opponent down to like 1/2. It's always going to be 4+1 because of Marnie.
Oh, that's so annoying.
Yeah, it's like the format where we didn't have N, but we had Judge. If anyone remembers that format.
I think it's even worse because like we already, like, everyone has already complained, right? Like this current format is like too much, like one-shot heavy and 0 comeback, and now we're losing even more comeback cards, right?
Yep.
But the attackers stay the same. So even if they like in the end Judge format, there was like the format wasn't as fast, right? And now it's still like, okay, those cards are gone, but what?
It was still a one-shot format. It was just a one-prize format.
Eternatus stays in the format, so you still like one-shot everything, and then you still have decks like Victini that like tries to get some quick prizes. You have decks like Zacian, and it's like without Stamp, as you said, right? Like the lowest you can put them is 4, and you lose all of those comeback decks where people had to like, let's say, think a little bit because a lot of this format came down to decks being able to punish you, right? Like you have some of the Urshifu decks that just like want to punish you if you are too fast. Then you have Control, which of course punishes you if you like don't watch out of your resources. Then you have Pikarom. Then like if you run into a Stand Paralyze, you can also just lose, and all of those cards are gone. So now it's just like people throwing their cards at each other and nothing that you can do about it. Like if your opponent, like you can try to have your opponent lose tempo by like putting them to 4 cards. But aside from that, it's like going to be very, very hard to make comebacks in the next format.
Yeah, Marnie's definitely probably going to become a 4 of in almost every deck, I think. Just because you need to have Marnie not only to set your opponent behind early, but late, so it'll be interesting. U-Turn board is another pivot card gone. It wasn't that played, honestly. Balloon kind of just took over anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
Jesse James, Swell. Like Swell is probably top impactful cards leaving. Swell
Is it
was.
though?
I think Swell was very strong because I think people didn't play stadiums because a lot of the top decks relied on Swell. So it was just like Black Market didn't see play because of that reason. Wanderer's Labyrinth didn't see that much play because of that reason. But if you remember, like early Players Cup, 3 qualifiers, like Alex Szymanski played Wanderer's Labyrinth, and a lot of the other Fire decks, like Santa Scorch players, played Wanderer's Labyrinth to kind of set their opponents behind. But the meta has changed back into a place where like people are playing a couple of stadiums, so Swell isn't as impactful anymore. But like Marshadow to deal with Hearth, or the Swell to go Hearth was always there in decks. And then I even considered having a Marshadow in my Urshifu deck to deal with the Swell to play Dojo down. But I guess some of these more like wham bam like really powerful stadiums are leaving, and it's going to be more control stadiums.
I think with half rotating anyways, Swell just loses a lot of its value just from that aspect alone.
Okay.
Because most decks was either like half decks or Swell decks, because like if you look at the top decks, right, like you have Eternatus, which usually plays like Swell, sometimes Power Plant, then you have Pikarom, Swell, ADP, if anything Swell, Urshifu, maybe not even any stadium, and then the Jirachi version sometimes Dojo. So it's like not really that high impact stadiums, aside from half, of course. So, but it's definitely like I'm kind of happy that Swell is gone, because that at least opens up the possibility for people to like play stadiums again, and you actually like have that aspect of the game back. Because with Swell it was like, if you have to put on your stadium before your opponent can like put on the Swell, you just lose 2 stadiums to that one card, and that was like kind of annoying, because they were not like super oppressive stadiums. It was just stadiums that help decks to like use their like strategy.
Yeah.
And I think cards like Swell that you can just splash into everything, that just get rid of strategies or like try to completely block off strategies, I don't think those cards are like very good to have in a game.
Sure, I agree with you. And especially like during the deck building process, if you ever wanted to play a stadium, you'd have to think about Swell every time, so it'd become like you have to play 3 copies of your respective stadium, and probably like Marshadow. And like that's slots being eaten up.
Yeah.
And now you could probably get away with playing 2 in potential post rotation, unless the stadium is that impactful, you know.
For sure.
So Great Catcher, probably one of the biggest cards rotating. GX and EX Pokemon are both gone, but
Great Catcher very big without GX.
Yes, but I mean, I think just the general impact it had on the game. The whole tag call engine is gone now. The tag call, Guzmahala, Malolana, Cynthia Caitlyn, all those cards are gone. So that entire engine and archetype, along with tag teams, has disappeared. For a lot, but I think Guzmahala was a very good card for what it was. Like all those cards, I think were very good for what they were. So that's where we laid out on. That's where we laid out on those cards. So let's check out what's rotating in the energies column.
I think it's only one card basically.
Triple and weak guard.
Triple, I guess as well. Yeah, but I mean, I think weak guard for sure is the big one.
Yeah, weak guard's definitely huge, just because this could have been splashed in pretty much any deck, honestly. Recycle and draw don't really do anything in triple. So we'll go backwards here from energy to Pokemon, and we'll talk about what we get to keep, actually. How does that sound?
Yes.
Do we get to keep ADP? No, so I'm not interested.
Okay, sorry, my bad. So in recent sets for energy specifically, we've seen a lot of new special energy being printed, and that doesn't seem to be stopping. There's going to be a lot of special energy across the board. We get to keep Aurora energy. We get to keep Capture energy. Capture energy, I think, is going to be very strong in searching at your Mons. Both the rapid single strike energies are really good. I think speed loses a lot of power because there's no good lightning cards anymore, really.
You can play straight Bolt Hunt. Oh.
We get to keep
I guess
Twin.
you can play Tapu Koko, but I don't know.
We get to keep Twin, so like Mad Party gets a lot of life.
I mean, Mad Party without triple seems kind of sus.
But think about it this way. You don't have ADP anymore, so you're not racing anything.
I mean, you still have to race, right? Like, you still... Like, the problem is Mad Party can't one-shot, like, VMAXs, so you just can't win. Like, how do you ever beat Eternatus? Like,
Okay,
you just don't have enough energy in your
Diggersby.
deck, and...
Memory
Hello?
capsule.
Hello, mister?
Yes?
Are you okay?
I'm just offering a solution.
I think the problem is Yeah, I think the problem is triple, because if you look at Sword and Shield tournaments, because I mean, for those not aware, like Pablo has been running those almost like every week,
Mm-hmm.
and you like, so it's basically like right now we can already check how how that's developing. So it's not like we're completely blind right now how Sword and Shield would look like. Of course, like we get some more sets, especially like some very like impactful cards in the next upcoming sets until rotation. But just to see what impact the loss of those cards has. For example, like the last tournament, the 4 most played decks were, or like, let's say 5, because let's include Zacian as well, were Inteleon, Victini, Rapid Strike, Dragapult, and Zacian. So it's like
Just big boys, basically.
just basically big VMAXs that attack for cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, for Eternatus, it's like almost impossible to survive in that format because Victini gives it a very rough time. Inteleon is probably also not the easiest matchup, and
Rapid Strike,
of
obviously.
course, Rapid Strike just completely murders it. So I think Eternatus is not really a deck, but like if you take a look at the rest, like the only real one pricer deck, like I'm not counting Decidueye, because Decidueye, in my opinion, is not a real deck because you're not playing the game, you're just like sitting there hoping your opponent doesn't have any counters. So the only really existing one price deck is Cinderace.
Okay.
And of course, with the loss of Mew, Cinderace has like a super hard time beating stuff like Inteleon and Dragapult.
Yep.
So I think, like at least from how it's developing right now, like I haven't completely looked at all the cards that we get. Of course, like the significant ones, like the horses or whatever. Like we're aware of those, and some of the like Rapid Strike support, for example. But when it comes to like one pricers, if they don't print anything like really impactful, I think we will just enter a meta game where it's only 2 and 3 pricers again, showing that it maybe wasn't just ADP's doing that we didn't have one pricers in the format.
Sure. So one thing I do want to note is like with one prizers, if Houndoom can pull. So right now the ruling is still up in the air because an official Pokemon employee tweeted that what they had in their books was that it could pull any single strike energy, any energy with a single strike stamp on it. But Japan has ruled it that it could only pull single strike energy, not the new rainbow energy. But if the ruling does end up being that it can pull anything with a single strike stamped energy, single strike one prize / like 2 prize toolbox could become a very real viable thing.
Primeape.
Let's go.
Because you can pretty much get 8 energy options out of your deck, and with 4 rainbows and 4 fighting / dark energies, you can pretty much play anything in the single strike toolbox. So, alright, with trainers, what do we have left, guys? We have Air Balloon, Big Charm, Hammer. God damn it, Hammer's still here.
I mean,
Let's go.
yeah, but you have to keep in mind, right? Like Hammer, especially recently, hasn't really been that impactful anymore. It's like I actually did some research because like I was talking to some people and it was like, yeah, Hammer is like blah blah blah, and I was like, yeah, but there's only really 2 Hammer decks, and then I literally went through the last like 4 or 5 big tournaments at that like point in time, checking all of the decks, and it like that's really how it was because at that time, of course, now more ADPs are playing Hammer again, but at that point when I checked it was like 3.9 something Hammers in Pika. Obviously, almost every Pika runs for Hammer.
Yep.
And the second most Hammer deck was Eternatus with like 2 point something, and then ADP had like 1.8 point something or something like that. So, like Eternatus being pushed out of the meta anyways, right? And Pika and ADP are rotating, so it's like I don't think Hammer will be impactful in Sword and Shield On. I think it's only impactful right now because we have those decks that can still make so much use of it. But like with the decks that I just mentioned, right, that are like the most popular in Sword and Shield On right now, Hammer is not really that relevant. Like the only deck that it really kind of helps you against would be Dragapult because they need 2 attachments.
Mm-hmm.
But Inteleon can attack for 1, Rapid Strike attacks for 1, Zacian has Saucer. Victini also only needs like 2 and has Spreading Flames, exactly. So it's like, I don't think Hammer will be that impactful. I think it's only because of like Eternatus and Pikarom mainly that it has been like so impactful. So I don't think we have to worry about Hammer being in the format too much going forward.
Evo Incense kind of takes the spot of Calm. Great Ball is still a great consistency card to have. Marnie, I think, becomes a pretty much staple in every deck. If it wasn't already. Metal Saucer, again, metal cards, keep that. Ordinary Rod, probably going to see some more value. Pokemon Catcher, hopefully some people get crazy and play it. Will.
I've never played that card in my life.
Research is a very strong card, obviously another staple. Quick Ball, another staple. Rare Candy, I'm sure it's just waiting to see the day of play. It's just waiting. Just waiting. Waiting on the world to change. Okay.
And they print a Gardevoir that's pretty good.
Yeah, and the Curlia does get 3 other Curlias with water duplicates, but again, the problem is the snipes, right? Like, there's no way to, if you're a single prizer, there's no way to stop bench damage, so until something like that comes back out, like until Mew comes back out, or like an effective form of Mew comes back out, playing single prizer is going to be tough because you're going to take so long to set up, and the moment you do, your board just could get wiped. Boss, obviously sticking around. Capacious Bucket, definitely a huge card for water-type decks, now that Lightning is basically not going to be a deck, for lack of better terms. Water decks like Inteleon that Nico mentioned can come back into the limelight, and Capacious Bucket definitely helps with cards like Frostmoth and stuff like that. You get to keep Galar Mine, Nico, for control if you asked.
Yeah, but that's like the only thing, right? Like you have no way to loop.
Yep.
So you can Galamine something, like you can boss Galamine something up, but then what do you do? You just, oh, because Shovel still stays in form, and
Yeah, figure out next step. Yeah, figure out that next step. Yeah. Scoop Up Net, still really good, obviously. We have it. Nothing much more to say. Skyla, nice to have. Scrapper, Big Parasol, Burb Keeper. Cape of Toughness is interesting too, just because, I mean, it does accept Pokemon GX, but that doesn't matter right now. But plus 50 could be relevant in some scenarios. Does Familiar Bell grab a VMAX? If only a VMAX from a VMAX, or like if I have a V in play, can I get a VMAX? I assume it's no.
Same name.
Yeah.
And V is part of the name on VMAXs as well.
That'd be kind of busted if you could do it that way. I'd be like, oh, Familiar Bell's insane. Let's play that card.
I mean, the question is, would we even play it in that case?
I don't know. Rose probably gets some value, honestly, because Rose plus Rose Tower, and there's no stamp and stuff like that. So you could probably set up an attacker out of nowhere to clean up late games with Rose, especially not the entire metagame is pretty much going to be only VMAXs, right? Like VMAXs and Vs. So you could like play Victini or play like Inteleon or something and play like 1 copy of Rose or 2 copies of Rose and just like late game be like Rose, attack, go. You lose. So cards like Struggle Gloves have been released, not like with a weakness, but just like the new gloves all have like plus 30 to a certain typing, which I think is interesting, but unless you're trying to counter type a certain deck, probably Struggle Gloves is the better option out of all of those cards. Turbo Patch might see play. I don't know what deck though, but Turbo Patch is still here. Piers is still here as well. Piers is pretty strong, I think.
Ooh.
What else do we have? I mean, our supporter engine pretty much stays the same, to be honest, across everything. I'm trying to see if there's anything like really cheeky. I mean, Bia could be played. Could be. Not like a should be. Nessa could be played. Again, could be, not should be.
Broken Opal.
Opal's okay, yeah. Again, could be, not should be.
Has to be.
We get all those new cards from Battle Styles that we got. Cheryl, Karina's Focus. Some of those like cards that are more support oriented. Phoebe, Cheryl, Karina's Focus. Both the mustards I still don't think can see that much play. We get to keep all these like the towers. The towers I think will be pretty integral in Stadium Wars, honestly. I think Rapid Strike and Single Strike will both want to play their respective towers moving forward. Especially Rapid Strike, because you lose Jirachi, so the Inteleon becomes your best pivot. Besides that, that's all the items, honestly. Items don't change too much, so let's check out the Pokemon and what's left that we get to play with. Alright, in case you were wondering, we do get to keep the Meowth VMAX promo.
Wow.
Yes.
Finally.
I just wanted to let you know if you wanted to play it.
Already testing post-rotation Meowth VMAX.
So besides all these promos that showed up at the top, we can jump into the set. So Sword and Shield base obviously means Rillaboom stays around. Again, single prices are an issue. There's no way to get Rillaboom out on turn 1 anymore because Eggrow is gone, so that'll see less play across the board. The Victini V from Sword and Shield is a very excellent pickup if you want to start looking into IRL play for next season, because I think this is the better Victini anyway. Having Spreading Flames on 2, your main and baby attacker is insane, and Energy Burst is really strong for 2 energy. So definitely look into picking that up if you don't already have some.
Without Welder, the other one's probably better.
You think so? Just 10 plus 50?
It's like very hard to get like significant damage with the second attack without Welder, because like
Interesting.
you only get to the same amount of damage if your opponent also has 2 energies, right? So
Yeah, all right. Buy both Victinis. That's all I'm saying. This is the Cinderace that Nico mentioned earlier with Libero. When you move from the bench to discard pile, or bench to active, you attach 2 fire energy from your discard pile to it. So it kind of self-accelerates just 1 energy attachment. And you could do 190 and discard 2, so you kind of just keep that chain going. So this might be one of the better one-prizers that exists. So it's a league promo, so if you talk to your league professors, they should probably have some for you. Don't need to buy that. I think Lapras is still going to be very strong, especially with Lightning leaving. Because Lapras is one of the few cards that has the potential to one-shot anything in the format, not just based on typing. And Frostmoth stays, and pretty much everything in the Lapras skeleton stays. Like, nothing in Lapras leaves the format. So I think Lapras is a card to potentially invest in if you want to have fun. If you hate having fun, then don't buy it.
okay, I will not buy it then.
Yeah. So the Drizzle in the middle of the Inteleon line is, I think, very strong, because Drizzle is going to be very strong at just picking up like support cards. Like in Japan, we already see without Jirachi, the Drizzle and Inteleon are being played. Now, granted, it's a Rapid Strike Inteleon, and they play 1 Shady Dealings Inteleon to get more items, but Drizzle kind of lets you set up your entire board, and with the 1 Shady Dealings Inteleon, you could grab like Boss for Game or something like that. So it's just like a better Jirachi that you can just search from your deck, but it isn't Evo. But I think Evo in a sense becomes very common in decks now if you're already playing VMAX, right? So like it doesn't really hurt.
I mean, you kind of have to play it right, because otherwise you can't find them.
Yeah. Frostmoth stays. That definitely makes all water decks, all water archetypes very strong. Especially, like, the one that people haven't talked about too much is Blastoise VMAX, so... I guess Tapu Koko V stays. I forgot about that guy. More Pico V also stays.
Koko Vs.
More Pico V, dude. You could play hit and run.
I mean, you can, for sure.
Nico's favorite card, Red Jirachi.
But do you want to do that, though? That's the question.
Yes. Stone Journer V also stays around. Actually, this card probably isn't that bad. It's not good. It's just not bad. Sableye V doesn't really get... Because you don't have the 2 energy acceleration, I guess. But you have Moltres now with E-switches if you want to play it that way. Snorlax VMAX, but there's no triple. So... Zash and Zamazenta, I don't need to say more about those boys. Those both really good still. Zamazenta gets a lot more value now post-rotation. Depending on how many decks do end up playing Phoebe. Eldegoss, very strong from the next expansion. Rillaboom VMAX, not very strong. Ninetales I thought would be a good card, so I picked up 2. But I realized that we don't have Welder after I picked it up. So if you play Ninetales, you'd have to play like a Twin Energy... Fire deck.
Ooh.
But
wait, what did you just say?
Wait, you can't attach Twin Energy to Ninetales, can you?
No, you can't.
If you're still here, this is the value you're getting.
You're learning with us.
Yo, let me attach my twin.
Well, by a lot of degree. Inteleon, like Nico said, gets a lot of value. And Inteleon, I think, is a very strong card because you get to snipe. Anything with snipe, I think, is going to be very strong because Mew is gone. So, yeah. Ice Q doesn't seem amazing. You can play Bolton, but you don't have anything to attach to, which is kind of sad.
I mean, you can attach to Tapu Koko V, and then you can play Koko VMAX, but the question is, do you want that?
You could play Toxicity, too, because there's like a not a Weezing, maybe a Garbodor that poisons. It's either Garbodor or like a.
It's
what?
Garb.
It's a Garb that poisons, yeah. So like you could do something like that.
Yeah, but do you want that? That's the question.
Well, that deck plays Trubbish, so.
I mean, yeah, you probably want that, but I mean, does anyone that wants a good deck?
Honestly, why did we not get a shiny Trubbish and Shining Fates?
I don't know. That kind of sad.
One day.
Trubbish is kind of sus.
One day we'll get there.
We get Dragapult. VMAX still sticks around. This card is really good. As Nico mentioned earlier, Eternatus does lose a lot of value. So this card gets much better, much quicker. Phalanx, Sandaconda. You can play Malamar VMAX. No, you shouldn't play Malamar VMAX.
No, you should actually.
No, I actually changed my mind. You should not. The Kaparaja exists as well. Not very good, though. Double gets a lot harder to pull off now that there's no Welder. So, I think Double is just going to become a binder card as we move forward.
I mean, if you're Rahul Reddy, you can attach it to
I'm being flamed in my own video. Decidueye, like Nico said, not a real card, but it is a wall card. It is doing decently in the Nico in the Buffalo tournament series. But that being said, like one copy of Phoebe or like two copies of Phoebe and you just like rip through it, like a Phoebe Goss, you probably rip through it well enough to get where you need to be. Wait, Rosa's gone, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so like Decidueye has no like reasonable way to set up actually anymore. Charizard VMAX, I hope this card never gets good because that'll be a lot of money to play IRL.
It's broken.
No, it's okay. Scorch I think is on the low down. It's already like kind of exited this format as a whole, but I think post rotation it's gonna have a lot of trouble actually doing what it wants to do without having the same setup cards.
Thank God, I don't like that deck.
Same. It's very interesting. There's the Mad Partiers. The Mad Party deck is probably still going to be good, but like Nico said, you lose triple, and you also can't one-shot anything. So you do lose a lot of like potential, like oomph the deck had because with 7 energy, the deck was already struggling to close out games. So what do you do with 4 energy? This isn't bees. You don't have special charge. You don't have 2 special charge in the deck. I guess you can play Vikavolt V still in lightning decks.
Broken card.
That does exist. Mew V doesn't do anything here.
Broken Mew.
Slowbro still exists. I believe Dark City is still around. So you can split Poison Eternatus.
Oh.
But again, Eternatus still faces the same problem where bench damage and stuff like that definitely hurts it because having your second attacker hurt before it even gets up to play means you're at a disadvantage. So maybe Turbo Patch Eternatus might be the way you have to play it. And I know Nico loves coin flips, so.
Yeah, my favorite part of the game.
Yeah. Eternatus hasn't left, as we said. Power Accelerator as well as Dread End are both really, really good. Is Scizor VMAX good? It's actually not. That's very sad. No, Salamence is not good. Don't think Butterfree is either. Oh, this is Hidden Fates, where all the random GXs did decent. So Alcremie VMAX is like, it did decent in one of Pablo's tournaments. Don't know why, but it did.
Maybe because he's cute.
But Alcremie VMAX could be played with the Shadow Rider Calyrex because you can discard, like you can set up for like a big Shadow Rider attack, and then follow up with a Gmax Whisk and discard like 1,000,000 damage basically because it's any energy from all of your Pokemon. It's 60x for 2 Psychic, and you're already playing Shadow Rider Calyrex, which lets you accelerate energies, and probably playing Cresselia and stuff like that. So playing like a 1/1 Alcremie or like a 2/1 Alcremie doesn't seem like that much work because the VMAX also says for each of your bench Pokemon search deck for a Psychic Energy card and attach it to that Pokemon. So it's also like a really strong accelerant in the early game. Like you go like turn 2 Alcremie VMAX, you get a bunch of energies onto the board, pivot into Shadow Rider, turn 3 one-shot something, potentially. So Alcremie VMAX might actually be a card that you want to pick up if it's cheap. I don't know how the two guys feel about it, but I think just based on what I said right now, I think it's a decent tech card to playable at the very least.
Both the VMAX and the V are basically bulk. You could probably find the VMAXs for $1 if you really wanted to, but I'd be looking to pay like $2 on the VMAXs maximum. And then the Vs, you can probably pick them up for like 50 cents, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Nico, do you think this card is playable? What are your thoughts on it?
I mean, it's definitely not horrible, but the question is like usually with those kind of cards, can you get to enough damage quickly enough, right? Because I mean, one of the things that Eternatus probably like struggles with right now, for the most part, is that he can't like one-shot those VMAXs, and like for Alchemy to get to those numbers, it's going to be like very hard to like one-shot an Intelio and one-shot a Victini.
I mean the same problem is going to exist with Shadow Rider, right? Because you're going to take a couple of turns to ramp up anyway. So you're probably going to have to go like Shadow Rider, big attack into Alchemy, big attack, or something in that order.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, it's something like once the Shadow Rider boy comes out, it's definitely something worth looking into. Yeah. But it might just be too slow.
It is bulk prices right now though, so if you want to just like speculate on a card that's decently playable, pick up like a 2/2 line probably and just hold it. I think, which should not be too expensive, honestly. I think Orbeetle is still very, very strong. You do lose U-turn board, which is kind of annoying, and you lose weak guard, which is also annoying equally. But Eerie Beam is still very strong. G-Max Wave is very strong, and the card is also bulk prices. So, Zarude, I thought would be good because I saw Gustavo playing it. It's not that good. Zarude Decidueye.
Broken card.
He was just healing over and over and over again. But Zarude has like so many things that one-shot it now. Victini one-shots it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
So many things. Holy.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I think Talonflame V is worth grabbing a one of just to have. Because I think Talonflame V can be pretty easily slotted into a lot of decks. Because now that we don't have Dedenne anymore, going first is a much worse position to be in. Because all we have to draw extra cards is Crowbat. So if you can't thin your hand down deep enough to find what you need, there's a chance you just brick and die. So like playing like a one of Talonflame, getting Talonflame out and using Fast Flight to just get 6 new cards, 6 fresh cards, seems like a reasonable thing to go into as a turn 1. Thoughts?
Yep, sounds good.
The question is if you have the time to do that again, because like, I mean, we lose a lot of tempo cards in that sense, like because of the Dedenne and everything. But I don't think the format will slow down significantly because, like, as like we talked about earlier, right? Like, let's say you have a deck where you have like your turn attachment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think let's just the most logical deck, right? Like, would be Victini because both are fire, and I think unless you are like in a super horrible spot, you would always want to just like attach to a Victini anyways going first.
Sure.
And then turn 2 evolve attack. So the question is if you have the time or like if your deck can afford to just go, okay, I just like attach and draw instead. So
that makes sense. I think I agree with that line. Once like my account logged out, so we're gonna go back in as we're waiting. Okay, go back to collection. Alright, where were we? We were almost at the bottom, actually. So we're almost done with all the new cards. So the amazing rares are something I guess we'll talk about too as well as we go down the list.
I don't think we have to talk about them. I think they're unplayable now.
Including the Victini?
Because Porygon rotates.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was thinking more so about Victini, but so Colossal loses a lot of its tempo again because both its good matchups kind of like decrease in what they did. So if Colossal wasn't already 1 foot out the door, it's both feet out the door basically at this point, I think. Jirachi, amazing rare, could be seeing play because Balloon, and we lose the other Jirachi. So it is like it's a reasonable, not a reasonable substitute, but it's like a reasonable something, right, to have.
I mean,
So-
if your deck already plays a couple of balloons, and you have the deck space, there's not really any harm in like playing a one-off, putting it down, and then when something gets KO'd, you promote it, get a free card.
So a card that I think is good, I don't know about these two boys, is Togekiss VMAX, because Lightning is gone. Togekiss VMAX has Max Glide 120 for 2 colors, so you deck for up to 2 cards and put them into your hand. Now, setting that up is pretty easy. You can play this card with Bronzong and Healing. Basically, like, you get to accelerate yourself, and with no stamp and only 4 Marnie in pretty much every deck, I feel like Togekiss could be very, very strong into the next format, and it did do well at a couple of the Sword and Shield on tournaments. You can pretty much like chain share rolls, get Bronzong up and running. Like 120 isn't like laughable damage either. You do 3-shot rather than 2-shot things, however, so that could be your downfall. But you could play like a metal box with Togekiss, and I think this card is also at bulk prices, so I think it would be a worthwhile pickup. Thoughts from the two boys?
I mean, I think it's all right for sure. It might struggle with Victini because the damage output is like very oppressive. So you always have to you literally have to go Cheryl every turn, and of course, eventually you just run out of Cheryls. But against other decks, it could be fine for sure. I mean, as you said, like it did decently well, and nowadays, of course, we're not in a format where you have to beat everything. So like taking one bad matchup is always going to be fine anyway. So if you have a bad Victini matchup, it doesn't mean your deck is unplayable, right? And
yeah,
definitely like should be solid.
Definitely should pick these up, I think, especially when they're at bulk prices. Will, do you have anything to say about the pricing of these cards right now?
I'm sorry, my headset died.
Oh, you're okay.
Which card?
Togekiss VMAX.
They've increased a little bit. A couple months ago, I was able to snag them for like under $2 each, maybe $1.50. But I think you're looking at like 2 to 2.5 right now. The V's are super cheap, same thing as El Creamy. But yeah, most of that stuff's really cheap right now.
Yeah, it's still a decent buy. Like, yeah, not bank breaking. Obviously, like the Rapid Strike and stuff will probably be for those of you who are looking to buy.
Yeah, you might even be able to like go into Verbank or some Facebook group and like be like, hey, these are all bulk cards. I'll take your 4/4 line for like, $10 or whatever, and someone would probably take it.
Crowbat, obviously a very strong card in every deck coming up. There's a bunch of ways to get it. I assume it'll be the card in the trainer toolkit that comes out in August. That has to be the card. Yeah.
You think they print Crowbat again?
Yeah, I did it with Dene.
But Crowbat already has so many prints.
Printed Crowbat 3 times
Okay,
now.
but like, what else do you think they'd put in the trainer toolkit as like a support card?
ADP.
They really did print Crowbat and Eldegoss into the ground. Like, yeah. I don't know. Any new support Pokemon coming out?
It would have to be like a V, I think.
Does it?
I don't know, because the last one had Dedenne.
Freaking Qrikatoon, bro.
Okay,
maybe.
I'm pretty sad. I'm pretty sad if I had to open that box. There's 2 Qrikatoon in there.
Imagine you have Qrikatoon, but that also has like an artwork like the Dedenne. I would buy it for sure.
I would probably.
Qrikatoon.
Cramorant stays around to get that beak catch attack, but Spit Shot is a lot less strong just because you don't have, you can't do a welder. That's just, you don't have welder.
It's actually incredible how inexpensive it is to get into the game right now. I mean, on a basic level, they've printed so many of the good cards into the ground with promos and stuff.
This is the best time to get into the game as a competitive player. If you've been buying cards, collecting, you're probably not watching this, honestly, if you're just buying or collector. But this is the best time in the world to get into the game with the trainer toolkit also coming out. That's probably going to have almost all of the trainer staples you need. So just buying like your core attackers each set should not be that expensive.
Does it have Crushing Hammer?
Probably, actually, yes.
Okay,
Plus, if the toolkit is anything like the last one, there'll be packs in there, so it's really a bargain buy.
It is a bargain buy, yeah. Now we move on to this set with Qrikatoon. Qrikatoon, obviously, really strong support Pokemon, I think, with Balloon especially. Gives you a way to get out of like weird Marnies, gets a little bit of extra cards. Does Flapple get good? I don't think Flapple gets good. I think Flapple stays bad. So Tapu Bulu is a card I want to talk about just because Cherim and stuff exists now. So Tapu Bulu, Cherim, and like Zeraora or whatever can be played. Again, you're not doing a massive amount of damage, but you can 2-shot pretty much any VMAX in the game. and so this is like a viable one prize deck reasonably. Again, though, you can get your bench sniped and life could be very difficult for you, but yeah, it's just an idea for a one prize deck.
And I just feel like we are just moving from one gatekeeper to the next. Like last time, or like this current format that we're still playing, ADP's gatekeeping the one prize, and I just think that's going to be Rapid Strike after rotation. It's just going to gatekeep all the one prize decks. Because, like as you said, right, let's say you play a Cherrim deck and you get off your Tapu Bulu tag, you don't even one shot, and then your opponent just goes, "Oh, I kill both of your Cherrims." So it's like, I feel like,
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
if we would have kept Mew in the format, I feel like we would go into like a pretty good, like spot for one price decks. But as it's right now,
so if you're watching this video and you made it this far, just play Pokemon and just tell him to reprint Mew. That's what Nico said.
Okay.
Okay.
But reprinted on a Froakie.
Yeah. Froakie. Bench barrier Froakie only.
Trubbish.
No.
Bench barrier Vespiquen.
No.
Right.
Well, that's the stage one.
That could be bad, yeah.
Yeah. Octillery obviously gets really good because with no real hand disruption and Octillery and no now bench like damage, and with all these other like Rapid Strike cards coming like Inteleon, Drizzle. I think in Drizzle and Inteleon might just be better, but you can probably play all of these cards in one deck, honestly, because you can search for it with Octillery. You can basically set up infinite snipes with Telescopic Sight damage. Like, I don't know, Rapid Strike just gets really strong. Like, I know people are saying Single Strike is supposed to get good post-rotation, but bro, Rapid Strike seems very strong. Tapu Koko VMAX, I think, like Nico said, is probably the only reasonable lightning attacker. You can play from behind and just keep going Max Shock and Paralyze, because decks will only have 4 Switch and possibly Rope. So you can kind of do that. And the baby Tapu Koko V with Spiral Thunder does punish a big board full of energies. But the deck, I think, definitely struggles with things like Victini VMAX. Obviously, Rapid Strike Urshifu, and Single Strike as well. A card I think is very strong that kind of has not been brought into the limelight yet is Mimikyu V. Just because as soon as it comes, I just think Jealous Eyes is going to be a very, very strong card with the Dummy Doll ability. Now we lose Stamp, so you can't go Stamp Dummy Doll or like Stamp Jealous Eyes, sorry. But I think Jealous Eyes is just a really, really good way to close out a game potentially, or like put yourself in a position to close out a game with Dragapult and stuff like that.
Mimikyu V also like 50 cents if you know how to buy it on TCG Player. Not the full art, but the regular one.
Yeah. Now, Necrozma V is also a card that I think has potential play because there's a lot of special energy that are going to be introduced into the format. And in a deck like Shadow Rider, you don't do a lot of damage early, so you want to be able to find a way to do damage early, and Necrozma V could be a tech attacker that fulfills that need by doing 220 for 3 energy. Yes, you are one-shot by Victini. Yes, Eternatus does one-shot you, but you do have resistance to fighting, and you can one-shot an Urshifu back, especially if they attach a Rapid Strike energy to an Urshifu. So kind of a decent card, I think, just to pick up as like a 1-of, maybe a 2-of attacker. And it's also like bulk prices, I think, right, Will?
Which one?
Necrozma V.
Yeah.
So I think it's a decent like snag if you potentially are on the Shadow Rider train as we move forward. Both the Rapid and Single Strike Bears, I don't need to speak too much about those. We already know they're busted. Houndooms. Grab your Houndooms now. I think this card's crazy good. So grab your Houndooms now. That's all I got. Also doesn't die to a snipe. But, I mean, Zigzagoon Ping, I guess. But snipe. Doesn't die to a snipe. Because Tyranitar, I think, is going to be good as well. Tyranitar V, I think, is going to be good because you can accelerate to it. Single Strike Crush does deal with a lot of the cards in the format. Yeah, you do discard cards off the top of your deck, but it's a Draga answer and other stuff like that, so. Corviknight. Nico, do you think Corviknight will still be good? I know you were really hype on it when it came out.
What do you mean still? It's not even good right now.
I know you were pretty hype on it when it came out. I guess that hype has died.
Yeah, I'm so sad. I really tried to make it work, but it's not consistent enough.
Okay. That is pretty much all the cards we've gone through. In terms of what next set is coming out with, you have the Shadow Rider cards and that kind of stuff, and you can watch my set review on that to see what's going on there. But that's pretty much the cards, the rotation. We've kind of covered, I think we've hammered this one to the ground. Sure, combos and stuff will come out as time goes on that we didn't expect. especially with newer cards being released. But hopefully you guys picked up a couple of quick snags you can get out of this. The moral of the story is, I guess, pick up a lot of the V Pokemon that are cheap right now because they're probably going to be playable at some point. Just because they all seem like they'll have some playability. Sure, Victini puts them into the ground, but you can try. So that's going to be the video for today. I'll let Nico plug his channel, and I'll let Will talk as well if he wants. Nico, I'll let you go first.
Okay, basically my channel is should be just Nico Alabas on YouTube. I'm pretty sure Rahul will just link it in the description anyway, so make sure to check it out. I started pretty recently doing videos, and yeah,
Nico and I'll
check it out.
Yeah, Nico and I'll probably have a fun collab coming up, especially with Chilling Reign. Maybe like a best of 5, best of 9 series. I don't know. He's got some exams. Once he finishes those up, we'll plan some fun Pokemon content stuff. Anything you guys want to see us do in the comments that's legal, please let us know. Nothing illegal, please. Nothing illegal, please. Nothing illegal, please. Will, thanks for coming. Would you like to shout out yourself or anything you want to plug?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Rahul. My name's Nico Alabas. You can find my YouTube channel at Nico Alabas Pokemon. Taking exams right now, but for the most part, I do upload Pokemon content basically weekly. You can stay tuned for a upload with Rahul and I at some point with Chilling Reign. Like I said, the exams might be a little busy, but you know, at some point we'll get there. But thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you. He Will, aka Nico. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hope you learned something about the rotation from this. It's better to just kind of like understand from a different person's perspective because we kind of went through this with you. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Remember to like, subscribe, the whole drill, and I'll be back Friday for regular scheduled content.